What if the best thing you will ever have in your life does not arrive with noise, with fireworks, or with trumpets announcing its presence? What if it doesn't come with headlines or spectacle? What if it comes quietly, like a breath that suddenly feels easier to take, like air that finally stops fighting your lungs? What if love begins not as a storm, but as a dawn, steady, certain, gentle, chosen one? That is how your presence was written into her life. You did not announce yourself as the answer. You simply behaved like one. You did not shout for attention. You became the hush that steadied the room. You did not wear holiness as a mask. You practiced it in a rhythm that her soul could actually keep. And she noticed, not with alarm, not with suspicion, but with relief so deep that even her body understood before her mind could name it. The best things do not force themselves into a spotlight. They do not audition for tomorrow with promises they cannot keep. They arrive with a kind of stillness that changes the temperature of a room. You became the best thing she ever had, not by dazzling her, not by competing with her past, not by trying to rewrite her history, but by outlasting every reason she had learned to brace for disappointment. Others had entered her life like comets, loud, bright, burning through the sky, but leaving the ground cold once they passed. You entered like dawn. You did not make her eyes squint to prove you were real. You let her vision expand slowly until the color returned to ordinary things, and in your presence, ordinary things became extraordinary. A cup of tea tasted like a decision. A walk around the block felt like permission. A simple conversation no longer needed to be scored or turned into strategy. You gave the day back to itself, and in doing so, you gave her back to herself. This is the hidden architecture of real beginnings. They do not rush to sell romance before restoring reality. They do not drag the future into the present with slogans. They let trust grow from small truths. Your quiet was not absence. It was integrity. When you said you would call, the phone rang, not with fragments of your attention, but with all of it. When you said you would come, the door opened, and relief entered with you. When you said you would think, you carried her words into silence and returned with something clean. Clarity grew around you because you refused to be clever at the expense of being honest. And the soul knows this difference immediately. The body exhales when translation is no longer required. The heart steadies when it is no longer on guard. That is how she recognized you as the best, not as a comparison, not as a conquest, not as a trophy over someone else's failure, but as relief, as release, as an answer that did not need to be advertised. Beginnings often arrive with pressure, with auditions for a future they cannot sustain. They sell tomorrow at a discount. You made a different vow. You built ground one step at a time. You showed up on time enough times that even time itself began to trust you. You ended evenings while kindness was still in the room. You apologized before the same wound could echo twice. You let wonder be the first language, not scarcity, not performance, not hidden tests disguised as tenderness. And in this cadence, the days themselves became generous again, and generous days are where the best love grows. You carried reverence into the most ordinary places, as if it were a flame protected against the wind. Parking lots became chapels because you did not rush. Kitchens turned into sanctuaries because you remembered to bless the work that feeds. Even silence became holy, not a void to be filled, not a cliff to be feared, but a chair you could both sit in. And your reverence did not stumble when desire arrived. You shaped desire into something whole, something ethical, something alive. She never had to choose between feeling safe and feeling seen. You proved that safety and being seen were never meant to be enemies. They were family, and you insisted they stand together. There is a mercy in beginnings like this. You lowered the cost of being near you. She did not have to solve you to survive you. She did not have to guess your mood or translate your silences. Your humor did not require a casualty. Your plans carried margins, so that spontaneity became a gift instead of a threat. You answered questions with the truth you carried instead of the cleverness you wished to perform. And these small mercies became the foundation for intimacy to grow legs strong enough to carry it into the future. The best things are rarely the biggest. They are the most livable, the most breathable, the most faithful to the shape of human days. You honored beginnings by also honoring endings. You closed chapters with dignity. You returned keys instead of clutching them. You kept confidences so yesterday did not poison today's water. You refused to ruin the soil of the past just to fertilize your own image. And when she learned this about you, something unclenched in her soul that years of advice had never touched. Trust no longer had to hunt. It simply arrived and sat down. This is the paradox the chosen ones carry. They prove tomorrow by being gracious to yesterday. You also rewrote the pace of love. You did not let adrenaline dictate speed. You let curiosity guide. You treated yes like a garden to tend, no like a doorway to honor, maybe like a seed that needed more time under the soil. Your love was not slow for its own sake. It was patient because truth deserves time. Heat could be strong without being rushed. Tenderness could be firm without pretending to be steel. And in this climate, joy arrived unmasked. Joy that does not brace itself becomes durable. And durable joy is the only joy worth building with. You aligned your logistics with your love. You did not make affection fight your calendar to survive. You worked as though usefulness was praise. You slept as though tomorrow's kindness needed rest. You ate as though clarity deserved fuel. You treated Sabbath like a treaty with your better self. So when she met you, she did not just meet a man. She met an ecosystem. And ecosystems are not measured in moments. They are proven across seasons. The best thing she ever had was not a headline, not a viral moment, not an applause line. It was a pattern that held true. You did not recruit her admiration to prop up your ego. You redirected it toward gratitude for elders, for friends, for honest failures, for unseen hands that had steadied you. You let esteem turn into encouragement instead of entitlement. And in that alchemy, love escaped the trap of worship. Lovers cannot carry shrines forever, but they can carry standards. You offered coherence in small things, and in response, her radiance did not shrink. It learned to dance. So, chosen one, never forget the miracle of the quiet beginning. Do not despise its plainness. Keep blessing doorways instead of chasing stages. Keep choosing truth over applause. Let morning speak first. Let evening end while kindness is still present. Best is not a headline. Best is a hallway lit every day. Walk it with humility, steady enough for grace to call it home. A life changes when it meets a mirror that does not punish. You became that mirror. You did not return her a reflection curated for your pride. You returned her a face more true than the one the world had taught her to distrust. You practiced the rare art of seeing without sizing, naming without branding, blessing without controlling. Where others disguised opinions as intimacy, you offered attention without weapons. Attention like this dismantles despair. It breaks the contract shame signed with memory. You could reflect her this way because you had already faced yourself. You forgave yourself without erasing the cost of repair. You looked at your chapters honestly, and because of that, you could look at her with honesty that healed. She felt it immediately. The absence of appraisal, the presence of wonder. Her shoulders dropped as though a trial had ended. You listened until her quietest voice finished its sentence. Most mirrors flatter the viewer. Yours freed the viewed. That freedom is why she called you the best. Not because you crowned her, but because you stopped asking her to audition. And in that freedom, she expanded. She brought her full weather, grief, joy, confusion, delight, and none of it was punished. You named beauty without trying to own it. You told the truth about her light, but you did not stamp your name across it. You honored origins. You blessed unseen labor. You credited teachers. Your praise became believable, and believable praise builds courage. Courage always returns multiplied. She grew more herself each week, not because you rebuilt her, but because you refused to make her a project. Your boundaries were gifts. You said no without cruelty, yes without manipulation, not yet without absence. You protected the frame of love without turning it rigid. She called it safety, not stiffness, because your frame was made for holding, not hiding. Real men can share authority without losing themselves. Real mirrors do not compete with the light. They angle themselves to let more of it into the room. When you saw your reflection reveal a bruise you had left, you practiced repair, not theatrics, not excuses, just proportionate apology, change behavior, and later, a return to check if healing held. Slowly, her nervous system learned what her memory could not. Honesty would not cost her belonging. That truth became the soil trust grew in. And so, chosen one, the miracle of your presence was never in the spectacle. It was in the steadiness. You paid attention like a sacred currency. You practiced peace like architecture. You lived reverence like air. And through that consistency, she found what she had always longed for. Not performance, not perfection, but a love steady enough to return her to herself. Consent is not a box you check once and forget. It is alive, like a prayer that must be repeated, tender and unpolished, spoken with words, with hands, with pauses. It keeps asking, because context changes, because the body shifts, because desire is never the same twice. Love that honors reverence moves like a duet, not a race. He is not reckless. It learns rhythm. It blazes without harm, because respect tends the fire. She does not have to guard herself against her own desire. She can welcome it forward, knowing the tempo will protect her. Reverence knows stillness. There are days when grief is the only language. Mornings when rest matters more than milestones. Whole seasons that belong not to romance, but to caretaking, study, or healing. You do not shame these seasons. You treat rest as the path, not a pause. You reschedule without bitterness. Bring soup instead of speeches. Let the calendar breathe. This is not weakness. It is loyalty to truth. Joy also has its pace. When celebration arrives, you do not shrink it with cynicism. You clap. You let laughter echo. You plan play that keeps dignity safe. You remember anniversaries of repair, not just anniversaries of romance. In your care, time gains texture. Quiet where quiet heals. Noise where noise restores. Structure where anxiety invents chaos. mystery where wonder belongs. She experiences life as seasons, not a sprint. Reverence ends well. It ends nights before tenderness runs dry. Arguments when truth is found, not when exhaustion wins. It knows how to say, not tonight, without stealing tomorrow. It closes doors gently or leaves them open clearly. Clarity feeds dignity. Dignity builds trust. Reverence also shows in the world. You do not rush waiters or sidelines. You do not weaponize your urgency against strangers. You bend your speed to the rhythm of the room. She notices. She sees how you treat those who cannot reward you. And she knows this is what aging beside you will feel like. Patience as principle, not performance. Principles proven in small moments are the only ones strong enough to survive the large ones. Reverence slows for truth. It does not let speed bully honesty. When friction comes, you face it. You do not rename caution as fear or label questions as negativity. You do not leap gaps to stay in control. You honor misalignment as a sign that light is needed. You risk being right later, not rushing to be right now. Delay becomes integrity, and integrity is magnetic to any heart weary of charisma without character. This pace makes space for wonder. Sunlight across a kitchen floor, a child's clumsy joke, rain tracing letters on glass. You do not fill silence with noise. You let us speak, and wonder becomes intimacy. To see the same thing and love it together. This is the simplest, strongest bond. Desire itself is refined by reverence. It learns to savor, not seize, to invite, not insist, to be present, not just intense. You grow fluent in subtler languages, the way her shoulders answer before her lips do, the way your breath can follow or lead, the way slowing down expands the moment. Chemistry stops being a sprint and becomes sanctuary. She leaves fuller, not drained, more alive, not diminished. Keep this cadence. Guard it like a conductor guarding a symphony from rushing. Sleep before shouting, prayer before pressure, gratitude before requests, apology before resentment, kindness before cleverness, walk before scrolling. These vows keep reverence alive. They give love a rhythm that can carry joy and sorrow in the same day. What makes you the best she has known is not only that you love deeply, but that you love wisely. You move at the speed where truth and tenderness keep pace. In your care, winters are not shamed, summers not wasted, harvests not hoarded. Pace is the hidden poetry of devotion. You have learned its meter. Love does not fail only from cruelty. It fails when repair is delayed. Until the fracture speaks louder than the love. You became the best she ever had when you learned swift mending, not grand speeches, but small crafts. Noticing the hinge, fetching the tool, fixing before resentment hardens. Intimacy is a house. Houses stay strong because someone tends to what is uneven before it breaks. You chose to be that man. She felt it. This is someone who does not outsource maintenance to miracles.